Okay, folks, welcome to week 4 of the Sampler Spree Slow Along, hosted by me, Nicole Gilbert. And this is based on Susan Aki's amazing book, Sampler Spree, which is just phenomenal. So, in this video, we are doing block number 11, which is Lacy Lattice Work, which you can find on page 22 of the Sampler Spree book. And this block uses half rectangles as well as stitch and flip corners. Now, I go in depth on how to do stitch and flip corners in the cherry basket video, so I will link that below for those of you who need a refresher or an introduction to stitch and flip corners. But since we have done them a few times already in the slow along, I'm going to go ahead and just make the assumption that you know how to make stitch and flip corners. So we will stitch and flip all of the corners using our C, D, and E blocks from the cutting that you did earlier. But I did want to walk through half rectangles because they are super easy and sometimes so flippin' confusing. It's like, what in the world? Because common sense makes you want to line it up. You're like, okay, there we go. Flip it over. A little wonky, but I got you. And then just stitch once you line it all up. Unfortunately, what is going to happen there is you are going to get a quarter inch seam allowance, which is then going to make you all wonky and off center and weird. So what you want to do is, instead of lining it up perfectly, like so, you're actually going to want to offset it by about a quarter of an inch so that you create little dog ears. And I use diagonal seam tape so I can go ahead and just kind of see where that is there. But you'll get used to it and kind of be able to eyeball what the quarter inch is that you are kind of offsetting. But you want to do that so that way, once you flip it open, you actually have a rectangle and not like a weird, funky rhombus, which is what you'll end up with if you don't offset it. So I am going to go ahead and sew just one so you can see it. Going to a traditional patchwork foot. I like a quarter inch with the guide bar, personally. Oh, didn't line that up properly. There we go. And then once you've offset it, it's just a traditional patchwork seam. So I've offset it, but now when I open it, it's actually gonna be a rectangle. So I'm gonna press that open so you can see. And on this block, just like on all my other blocks for this quilt, I am pressing my seams open. Okay, and so as you can see, because I offset it, I actually do have a perfect little rectangle. Yay! All right, folks, but you can see with how these tails are, where some wonkiness could have come in. That wonkiness that's in the tails would have been in your block, and that would have been a major bummer. So now I'm going to go ahead and make the other 3 required half rectangle units, and then we're going to sew together this this block, because it is going to go together super fast. Okay, and so now we're just gonna piece together our quadrants. So these will get sewn together, this, this, and this. And then we'll have 4 quadrants and we'll sew it together like a 4-patch. It's a really quick block to put together once you have, as soon as you've done cutting out your original pieces, you just have to have the knowledge of exactly how to do some of those techniques, which are pretty straightforward in and of themselves. And so at this point, you'll notice that your half rectangle is much longer than your stitch and flip section. What I like to do is to, at this point, sew my 1/4 inch seam allowance and then trim off the edges. Anything that's bigger than that 1/4 inch, because your stitch and flip segment is the right size. So I just go ahead and clip this. Alternately, you can trim your rectangles to the correct size before you sew it all together. But I like to go as quickly as possible. You know, we're making over 100 blocks here, people. And there you go. It's trimmed perfectly. And that is a faster way to trim than using the rotary cutter, even though you're going to have some way more precision. All of this is ending up in the seam allowances. So I'm not too fussed on the precision when everything's ending up in the seam allowances. But what I will say is when you are sewing these together, you do want to make sure that the corners of your stitch and flip section are lined up on that center seam of your half rectangle. Okay? And then we are sewing off of the edge of the half rectangle. I mean, off of the edge of the stitch and flip. All right, so there you have it, all nice and neat. And now it's time to just sew together those quadrants. So I will sew this one to this one and this one to this one. Once that's been pressed, we will sew the top half to the bottom half. Okay, so we're back from the pressing station and we have sewn those 2 halves, and now it's time to just sew together the top to the bottom.
And I like to put a pin in the center just so that I can make sure that that aligns the way that I want it to align. And then I do put them to the sides just to make sure that the angled edge works out the way that we want it to.
So there is that angle. And you can kind of see it here. This V is actually creating a big diamond in the center. And so we want to make sure those angles line up nicely.
Too much gas.
Okay, folks, and just like that, here is our Lacy Lattice Work quilt block. Isn't it so much fun? It's one of my favorite ones. I can't wait to see what yours look like, so go ahead and use the hashtag SamplerSpreeSlowAlong, and I can't wait to see them. Happy sewing!